Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the latest in our servant leadership series, a deep dive into growth in action, cultivating excellence. Think about the design of your program. Is it already amazing, or do you have some challenges you want to address? Wherever you're starting from, every program has the potential for growth. In this session, we'll talk about one of the most important attributes of a servant leader, a commitment to ongoing growth and improvement. We'll talk about a growth mindset for our students. And now it's time to we talk about a growth mindset for our students a lot. And now it's time to turn our attention to ourselves and focus on our potential in every program. So let's join the 21st CCLC National Technical Assistance Center to envision opportunities for growth and realign your mindset toward the potential of your program. So I'm delighted to have you all here today as we explore another one of the attributes of being a servant leader, a commitment to ongoing growth and improvement. So throughout this session, we're going to examine how adopting a growth mindset can transform not only our students, but also ourselves and our programs. Let's get started with a quick disclaimer.
This resource was developed in 2024 by the Nita M. Lowy 21st Century Community Learning Center's 21st CCLC National Technical Assistance Center, NTAC, funded under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education Department and administered by Synergy Enterprises Incorporated under Cooperative Agreement Number 287E230009 with the Department's Office of Elementary and Secondary Education. Opinions expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the position or policy of the Department, nor does mention of trade names, commercial products, or organizations imply endorsement by the Department or the federal government. This resource is in the public domain and is available at 21stcclcntech.org. Authorization to reproduce it in whole or in part is granted.
All right, so just some quick introductions. I'm Chaz Sumners. I taught special education for 11 years, and I also spent 10 years working in out-of-school time programs. I had the opportunity to work in pretty much every position from frontline staff all the way up to program director. And so I'm familiar with the challenges at each of these different levels. And so I'm excited to be able to talk to you about them a little bit today. And with me today is the amazing Brittany Stanton.
Thanks, Chaz. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany, and my background is in education. I spent 7 years in the classroom teaching K-12 music, and I then moved on to a nonprofit out-of-school time program and served in a number of capacities there, but really was responsible for running programs, designing programs, implementing programs, finding funding for programs, all those things. And so that's what brings me to my work that I do here as part of the NTAC team, sharing some of the learning and experiences that I've had along the way. And I'm excited to talk about growth with Chaz. Thank you so much.
All right, so just a little bit about our mission and our vision. So the purpose of the 21st CCLC NTAC is to support everyone who plays a role in the implementation of 21st CCLC programs, so that you can engage and empower students and their families. Now, we do this by providing evidence-based resources and professional learning opportunities that build the capacity of our stakeholders. So the 21st CCLC NTAC is focused on addressing the impacts of COVID-19, providing equity of access to resources, supporting students' SEL needs, fiscal compliance, statutory and programmatic requirements, and academic focus areas, such as those listed here. So as educators and leaders, we often focus on fostering a growth mindset in our students, encouraging them to embrace challenges and persevere through difficulties. However, it's equally important to turn this focus inward and apply those principles to ourselves and our programs. Every program, regardless of its current state, holds immense potential for growth. By adopting a commitment to ongoing improvement, we can transform our programs into thriving environments where both staff and students excel. A servant leader's dedication to growth involves continuous learning, careful planning, faithful implementation, and thorough evaluation. By understanding the dynamics of our teams, recognizing their strengths and areas for development, and supporting them with targeted professional development, we can cultivate a culture of excellence. So today, we're going to talk about the growth cycle, and we're going to go over some growth strategies so that we can be better servant leaders and help the individuals that are in our programs grow, which in turn helps our program grow. So throughout this series, we've been discussing the pillars of servant leadership. Up until this point, we've talked about the following: listening. And so effective leaders, they prioritize active listening. They ensure that they truly understand and respect other perspectives and concerns. By attentively hearing what other people say, they build trust and foster open communication, creating a supportive and collaborative environment. Servant leaders strive to empathize with others, seeking to understand and share their feelings and experiences. This deep sense of empathy helps in building strong, supportive relationships, allowing leaders to connect with and support their team members effectively. Self-awareness involves having a deep understanding of oneself and the surrounding environment. It enables leaders to recognize the ethical and moral implications of their actions, guiding them to make decisions that align with their values and the needs of their team. A servant leader seeks to heal and nurture the emotional well-being of individuals, fostering a supportive and positive environment. By addressing and resolving conflicts, they promote overall well-being and create a harmonious workplace where individuals feel valued and understood. Rather than relying on authority, servant leaders use persuasion and influence to build consensus and encourage cooperation. This approach empowers others to contribute meaningfully and fosters a sense of ownership and engagement within the team. Servant leaders have the ability to envision and articulate a clear, long-term vision for the organization. They balance day-to-day operations with big picture thinking, ensuring that the organization remains focused on its goals while adapting to changing circumstances. Foresight is the ability to predict and anticipate future outcomes based on past experiences and current realities. This skill helps leaders make informed decisions that benefit the organization and its stakeholders, positioning the organization for long-term success. Servant leaders act as stewards, taking responsibility for the well-being of the organization and its members. They are committed to serving the needs of others, ensuring that resources are used responsibly and that the organization operates with integrity and purpose. All of these are needed to support growth in action, today's pillar. So let's start with the growth cycle. This cycle is essential for fostering continuous improvement and includes four main components: learning, planning, implementing, and evaluating. Each step is integral to the development and success of your staff and your program. So we're going to explore each component in detail. Learning. This is the foundation of the growth cycle. It involves acquiring new knowledge and skills and understanding relevant to your topic, to your organization's goals and objectives. Learning can take many forms, such as formal training sessions, workshops, on-the-job experiences, mentoring, and self-directed study. The aim is to ensure that both leaders and team members are continuously growing and adapting to new challenges and opportunities. Effective learning helps identify gaps in knowledge or skills and provides a roadmap for addressing these deficiencies. After gathering new insights and knowledge, the next step is planning. This involves setting clear and achievable, SMART goals and developing strategies to reach them, action plans. Planning requires a thorough analysis of the current situation, considering both internal and external factors that could impact the organization. This step also includes resource allocation, defining roles and responsibilities, and creating timelines. Good planning ensures that everyone is aligned with the organization's vision and has a clear understanding of their role in achieving it. With a well-structured plan in place, the next step is implementation. This phase is about putting the plan into action and executing the strategies developed during the planning stage. It requires effective communication, coordination, and collaboration among team members. Leaders must ensure that the necessary resources are available and that everyone is motivated and equipped to carry out their tasks. Monitoring progress and providing support and guidance are crucial during this phase to keep the team on track. The final component of the growth cycle is evaluating. This involves assessing the outcomes of the implemented activities to determine their effectiveness in achieving the set goals. Evaluation can be both formative or ongoing and summative at the end of a project or cycle. It includes collecting data, analyzing performance metrics, and soliciting feedback from team members and stakeholders. The insights gained from evaluation can help identify successes, areas for improvement, and lessons learned. This information feeds back into the learning phase, creating a continuous loop of improvement. So let's take a moment to self-reflect. Share which aspect of the cycle you struggle most with. Feel free to either use your annotation tool located on the bottom of your screen, or just share out in the chat box. Okay, see you're having some problem with evaluating and learning. Yeah, I know when I was running programs, evaluating was always something that I struggled with because even though I had such a connection to my staff that sometimes I worried about being able to evaluate them properly and objectively. Planning, yep, because it's hard, especially when there are so many other X factors like funding and attendance. So sometimes we're just not sure what we're going to plan for. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing. So it's important to think about what tools and strategies that we've learned so far during the leadership series that we could use to address these challenges. And you want to think about how not making time to do these things can impact your program and your staff, which is often negatively. So individual growth, while beneficial for personal development, may not always translate into significant organizational change. A single person's progress can be isolated if it's not aligned with the broader team or organizational goals. Now, in contrast, team growth fosters collaboration, shared vision, and collective effort, amplifying the impact on the entire program or organization. When teams grow together, they create a supportive environment that drives innovation, efficiency, and sustained organizational successes. And this is something that I sort of struggled with when I was a program director as well, because when I first got the job as program director, I just wanted to get every training I could and I only worried about attending those trainings myself. And that's great, but one highly trained individual can only make so much of an impact on an organization. When our entire team is trained in the same way that we are, then all of a sudden it improves the quality of our program for everyone. A rising tide lifts all ships, after all. So now let's briefly discuss Covey's maturity continuum. So according to Covey's maturity continuum, individuals progress through three stages: dependence, independence, and interdependence. So let's briefly go over those stages. Dependence is the initial stage where individuals rely on others for guidance, support, and decision making. This is a natural starting point, especially for new staff members who are still learning the ropes. So during this phase, it's crucial to provide robust training, mentorship, and a supportive environment, making them feel welcome, willing to take risks and ask questions. And by doing so, we can help staff members gain that confidence and the skills that they need to move towards independence. Providing clear instructions, regular feedback, and accessible resources are key components in support in this stage. So then, as staff members develop their skills and confidence, they progress to the stage of independence. Here, individuals take greater responsibility for their tasks. They make decisions autonomously, and they demonstrate self-motivation. Encouraging this independence involves setting challenging yet achievable goals, offering opportunities for professional development, and allowing staff to take ownership of projects. Independence is marked by a significant increase in personal accountability and productivity. As staff members feel empowered to innovate and problem solve on their own, they move towards a space of independence. And then once they feel truly independent and capable of doing things on their own, we can move towards our ultimate goal, which is interdependence, where individuals not only excel on their own, but they also collaborate effectively with others. At this level, staff members recognize the value of teamwork and understand that by working together, they can achieve greater outcomes than by working alone. Promoting interdependence involves fostering a collaborative culture, encouraging open communication, and providing platforms for teamwork and shared learning. This stage is characterized by a high level of cooperation, mutual respect, and collective problem solving. So, according to Covey's maturity continuum, we progress from dependence to independence and finally to interdependence, where we collaborate effectively with others. By guiding staff through these stages, we create a more cohesive and high-performing team. So how do we support staff in the dependence phase? Well, a few things that you can do are provide comprehensive training programs. These comprehensive training programs equip staff with the necessary skills and knowledge to perform their duties effectively. By offering structured learning opportunities, organizations ensure that all employees have a solid foundation to build upon, fostering a sense of confidence and competence. And this reduces dependence on external resources or ad hoc solutions where we just find something that works in the moment. As staff feel well prepared to handle their responsibilities independently, they can handle these challenges more effectively. You can also assign mentors to new staff members. Assigning mentors to new staff members provides them with guidance and support during their initial period of adjustment, which can sometimes be rocky. Mentors offer valuable insights, they answer questions, and just share experiences. And this helps new employees navigate their roles more effectively. This personalized support system fosters independence by empowering new staff to learn from experienced colleagues, lets them develop their own problem-solving skills, and builds confidence in their abilities. And last, but also not least, you want to create a supportive and encouraging environment. So creating a supportive and encouraging environment helps staff feel valued and motivated to grow professionally. When employees know that they have the backing of their organization, they're more likely to take initiative, to seek out learning opportunities, and collaborate with others. This nurturing atmosphere reduces dependence on constant supervision as staff become more self-reliant and proactive in their development. So let's move on to independence. Once we've done those things and supported our staff in the dependence phase, you'll see them start to gradually take on more responsibilities on their own, signaling that they're moving into the independence phase. So how do we foster independence and support them in that phase? Well, setting clear and challenging goals gives staff a defined direction and purpose, motivating them to strive for excellence. Clear objectives encourage employees to take ownership of their tasks, lets them develop problem-solving skills, and can push them beyond their comfort zones in a good way. This fosters independence as staff learn to navigate challenges and achieve targets with minimal supervision. Offering opportunities for professional growth is also important. Things like workshops, courses, conferences empower staff to expand their skills and knowledge. When employees see their development as prioritized, they are more likely to seek out learning experiences and take charge of their career paths. This proactive approach to professional development enhances their ability to work independently and contribute to the organization. Training and workshops, those things are more important to staff when they realize that they're also important to you and that you care about them bettering themselves. You also want to encourage autonomy and self-directed work, and because this allows staff to take initiative and make decisions within their own roles. When employees are trusted to manage their responsibilities, they develop a stronger sense of accountability and confidence in their abilities. This empowerment leads to greater independence as staff become adept at managing their workloads and finding innovative solutions on their own. And as we foster this independence, staff will gradually move towards a state of interdependence. So then how do we promote that? Well, facilitating team building activities helps staff build a strong interpersonal relationship, and it builds a sense of camaraderie. These activities often promote trust, understanding, and cooperation among team members, which are essential for effective collaboration. As a result, employees learn to rely on each other's strengths and work together harmoniously, fostering interdependence in the workplace. Encouraging cross-functional projects and collaboration also exposes staff to diverse perspectives and expertise from different departments. Being able to draw upon the expertise that each other has is a hallmark of being in the phase of interdependence. This collaborative approach enables employees to learn from one another and leverage one another's goals to achieve the common goal. By working together on shared projects, staff become more interdependent, recognizing the value of teamwork and collective problem solving. You also want to make sure that you're promoting a culture of open communication and shared learning that ensures that knowledge and information flow freely within the organization. When staff feel comfortable sharing ideas, feedback, and experiences, they create a supportive environment where everyone can learn and grow together. This culture of openness fosters interdependence as employees understand the importance of mutual support and continuous learning overall. By leveraging the principles of Covey's maturity continuum, we can effectively support our staff's journey from dependence to interdependence. This progression not only enhances individual growth and job satisfaction, which also ensures a higher rate of job retention, but also contributes to a more dynamic and resilient and successful organization. Through this holistic and structured approach, we ensure that our staff are well equipped to meet the demands of their roles, to collaborate effectively, and most importantly, to drive the organization's mission forward. Now, let's take a moment for self-evaluation. So the maturity continuum is a model that illustrates the stages of professional and personal development, and it ranges from dependence to interdependence. But it's important to recognize, excuse me, that placement along the maturity continuum is very situational. Now, you might find yourself at different stages in different areas of your life and work. I know I certainly do. So let's take a moment to assess your current stage on the maturity continuum by considering your level of dependence, independence, or interdependence in various contexts. Reflect on areas where you can grow. For instance, you might be highly independent in managing your daily tasks, but still dependent on others for decision making and team projects. Alternatively, you might already practice interdependence in collaborative work, but you might seek greater independence in your own personal development. So go ahead and grab your annotation tool and think back to the stage on the growth cycle that you identified as your biggest challenge. And now think about the continuum. Where do you find yourself on the continuum relative to that stage in the growth cycle that you found challenging? This visual representation will help you better understand your starting point and set clear goals for your growth journey. So let's take a minute to reflect on that now. I know we were talking about evaluating before, and there was definitely a long period of time where when I was struggling with evaluation of my staff, I was on the dependence side of things. I was not sure if my judgments and my calls were correct, even though, I'd been in this staff's shoes before, and I would look to others for confirmation for the things that I found when I evaluated staff.
I think this is can be so hard. It requires so much reflection to like identify and pinpoint. And sometimes you might be unsure whether it's like one or the other. But I love what Sean has said here in the chat.
Mhm.
I love to say that I am interdependent or operate like that, but it requires a lot of trust.
Yeah.
While I strive for that, I many times fall back into independence because I just sometimes need to get things done. Like I feel that to my core in some of my
Yes.
experiences as I reflect back to like when I was running program. And as a program leader, we can so easily fall into that the,
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to run program,
You know
you
what?
know,
This has to be
and
it done.
it
Yeah.
has to get done and the bigger things are going to have to wait. And so, that does push you into that place where you're operating like very independently and you're calling the shots and you're doing the thing. Um, but whenever you open yourself up to the different types of ways that we can grow and work on growth, we can work towards maintaining more consistent interdependence in our programs, which is, I think, ideally like that's where we want to live, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody ever goes into this being like, I never want to deal with students ever again. Like that's something that it warms our hearts and it's what got us here was working with students in some capacity. And programs are not going to operate without some level of interdependence.
That's right. I mean, we all know that it's a team effort to run programs, right? You can't do everything on your own. 50 kids is not easy to handle when, it's just one person. But being with a staff that knows that you trust them to make calls on their own, then all of a sudden that staff starts working together and they start doing things that even we didn't think about, right? And so it helps build growth with our entire program. Oh, yeah, that's right, Erica. It is very easy to fall into independence. I mean, it's hard because keeping people in the loop, right, all the time is such a struggle because we are getting so much information, from either like the state or from parents or from the school. And so it's hard to make sure that we're communicating all of those things to our staff in an effective way. But if we take the time to do that, then we build trust with our staff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we want to strive for that interdependence, Charlotte, because I mean, everybody's just going to be happier and the program's going to be better. It, it fosters such a wonderful open feeling in program that even the students realize, and they're more willing to take risks and just enjoy themselves in program. Awesome. Thank you for all these amazing comments. I'm going to turn it over to Brittany now.
So there are some strategies that we've talked about with the various pillars thus far that they may come up in what we'll discuss today as also supporting growth. And that's because so many of these different strategies can support in so many different ways. But today we're going to hone in on how these things are going to support growth specifically. So we're going to look at 6 different strategies and break them down. We'll do some activities to support some of them as well. But we've got 6 here for you: collaboration, courage, flexibility, growth mindset, eagerness to learn, and unity. So collaboration is whenever you as effective leaders are including your staff and your stakeholders in that decision-making process, that you are not prioritizing opportunities. If you don't prioritize those opportunities to collaborate, you're actually not helping growth, right? It's a hindrance to growth. The goal is always going to be to offer that chance for growth and leadership for everyone in your program. We want it from our students. We want it from our staff. We want folks to be able to step up and collaborate and work together. Using courage. Many times we might feel some pushback when requiring folks to learn new things. We've seen that in students. We see it in our staff, and put that learning then into action. So you as leaders must be willing to make those unpopular and difficult decisions, and hold true to implementing the learning that you provide to your staff, whether that's through professional developments or conferences or whatever, and actually then taking the courage to implement those things and promoting those new initiatives along the way. Remaining flexible is going to be so important as you are leading your programs. Leaders must always be willing to hear the new ideas, new perspectives, and yet still maintain ownership over your program, right? Because you're still in charge. But that's what makes servant leadership special, is because everybody's voice matters, and everybody's thoughts and opinions come to you to help then make your decisions. You have to be flexible and willing to hear those new ideas, and make change as necessary when you move your team forward and your program forward. We talk about growth mindset with our students. You also need to adopt a growth mindset. Technology may change, or staff personnel issues might come up, and being able to turn that fixed mindset, that thinking of, oh gosh, this is not going to work, into a growth mindset, which is, yes, what opportunities this can bring, will help you then overcome the challenges and continue to make progress, which is what we want. Having that eagerness to learn ties directly into that growth mindset, right? You need to stay on top of trends and new research, and you should want to be a lifelong learner and instill that desire in your staff, just like we try to instill into our students. Invite staff to help plan or participate in training, or even implement trainings. Give them those opportunities to attend local conferences, and engage in online learning, showing that the value of opportunities to learn is strong in your program and strong with you as a leader. And ultimately, this just helps build a healthy culture of learning across the board in your program. And then there's unity, right? Leaders can motivate staff to display their own passions for work. Bring your team together consistently once a week for a period of time. And during that meeting, reiterate goals and provide opportunities for staff to share some challenges and some barriers. When staff who don't often see each other can come together and share and support one another, that will build trust between them and you. So we're going to dive into each one of these just a little bit. And so, collaboration, as we take a look at this, we should understand that it fosters growth by promoting that culture of teamwork and that shared responsibility. And it allows for the exchange of diverse ideas and perspectives and enhanced problem solving and creativity. Through collaborative efforts, teams become stronger. They support each other's development and achieve common goals effectively. And we can support collaboration in a number of ways. As I briefly mentioned, team meetings, right? Regular meetings are important. They're not just the times whenever you as the leader are sharing information and that information dump at staff meetings. That's not what team meetings should be about. You have to convey some of that information, of course, but you also need to include opportunities in those meetings where you're going to discuss program goals, progress of the program, challenges that individuals are experiencing, and then work together on some of those things to try to help those who are struggling to try out new techniques or new strategies within the context of their lessons so that students can be more successful. We can incorporate team building activities, and this can happen in the context of those team meetings, but they can also happen outside of that context, right? To plan specific separate moments to do team building activities can be extremely valuable. These activities can help strengthen relationships and improve teamwork skills. I've seen everything from like minute to win it, like little games just to get folks like bonding and excited and just have some fun, or like staff outings if that is something that you can do to celebrate one another and the progress that you've had, solving puzzles together, doing an escape room, having a barbecue, like finding moments to bring folks together in your program that's not always about work can help to build a stronger team and strengthen those connections between one another. Collaborative planning, right? We are not in this alone. So we want to encourage that staff members collaborate together for planning lessons, activities, projects, things like that. And the reason for this is because it will strengthen the planning process and strengthen those individual facilitators, but it's also going to create this connectivity within the content that's happening in your program because you can align from person to person, from activity to classroom, the things that you're working towards. And so you're working together and not necessarily in that independent spot, right? It helps connect content throughout the entirety of your program and helps staff plan interesting, meaningful, impactful activities as multiple people bring their unique ideas on how to teach and support students. And then inclusive decision making. I said this moments ago, where including people on that decision making process is important. Involving your team in this process makes them feel valued and helps to gain different perspectives. And it also helps you as that leader make truly informed decisions, right? And that's what we need to be doing if we're going to be leading our program on successfully. Let's jump on to courage. This is our second strategy. And courage underlines staff's ability to take on those new challenges and encourages them to step out of their comfort zones. We need to do that ourselves, right? It is empowering them to make those bold decisions and innovative ideas in the face of fear or failure. And that happens to us all the time, right? We're going to experience failure. There's going to be things that do not go successfully. There's going to be things that we're going to be scared to try, scared to do. And to support that courageous stance within your teams, within your staff members, within yourself is really important. It's translating mistakes into a learning experience, which is something that we also promote with our own students, right? It builds resilience and helps create that willingness to embrace change and can lead staff's personal and professional growth, as well as overall program growth. So we do this by risk taking. And so we want to make sure we're in a safe environment with whatever the risks we're about to take are, right? That there is support for each other in this process. We want to encourage staff to take those chances and to try new things and to frame mistakes and failures as learning opportunities. That's part of the risk taking, right? That there's a chance that it might fail, there's a chance that it might not go the way it needs to, but ultimately that is a learning opportunity. We can also model courage. We as program leaders, we have to operate from a place of courage many times, and setting that example for our staff by exercising courage ourselves in the decisions that we make and the actions that are being taken, is going to help them feel more comfortable with taking the same kind of courageous steps. Offering support, right? Being supportive in an ongoing way as your team takes these risks and exercises courage is also important, right? We don't want to say, okay, go try the thing, and then not be there at the end to debrief or to say good job or to ask, hey, like, how did that go? Offering that ongoing support as they're taking those courageous steps will help make a difference. And of course, acknowledging them for their efforts. So as they take those chances and they overcome challenges, to pay attention and look for it and to acknowledge it. And this kind of ties back into things like providing feedback, right? Whenever we see something successful, say it, just share it with them. It can go a long way. So, speaking of courage, let's take a moment. We'll do just a little activity. This is something you can take back to your programs and do with your staff, do with your students. But we're going to take a moment and just reflect on, think about courage. I want you to just think about something that you have done that has taken courage, that it has nothing to do with your program. What is something where you had to exercise a little bit of courage? So I mentioned that I taught music in the classroom. And, to this day, it does not matter how much practice I've had, how many years of experience I've had. Every time I get up to sing in front of a group of people, I get nervous. Like the butterflies, the shakes, the sweats, like it's real. But I wouldn't keep doing it if I didn't love it. And it takes that little bit of courage, right? To be like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to sing. It's going to be great. It's going to be okay. And that's something that has lived with me because music was in my life since I was a young child, and experiencing that on an ongoing basis because I chose it as a career path at one point. It takes courage every single time.
Yeah, I feel that, Brittany. I know when I started teaching, I was really worried just about being up in front of a group of students because I'm, a pretty intensely introverted person. So I'm like, how am I gonna, get up here in front of these students and feel comfortable doing it? And I can still remember, the butterflies in my stomach, more than butterflies, maybe like giant moths or something in my stomach. That first time when I'm standing up there, the bell rings and these kids are just staring at me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this, but sometimes when you take that leap, it's incredible how much growth you can experience, right?
No, absolutely.
Oh, there we go.
So we have here, thank you, Sean. My 17-year-old daughter got a job at Six Flags as a scarer for Halloween Fright Night. Oh my goodness.
It's a
I
fun
hate
job.
haunted houses and being scared, but I went to hers because it was her. I think we can demonstrate courage when something has tremendous value to us. I try to
Absolutely.
remember that when dealing with an angry parent or frustrated student or dismayed administrator. It's just like the haunted house. Absolutely. Yeah. And this is something that we experience so frequently too, right? Because you're running programs, you're going to have families and parents that are going to come to you with frustrations. You're going to have students that are going to come to you with frustrations. And it's going to take some courage to approach and deal with those things, because
Absolutely.
it there's a combination of both vulnerability and honesty that's a little frightening, and ownership of whatever it is, right? Because um, they're looking to you for solutions. They're looking to you to solve the problem, and it it could be that you have no information up until that moment whenever it comes to you, right? And you don't want, like, the feeling of disappointing others, I think, is like a human feeling. Like, nobody ever wants that. And so it takes some courage to step up and to respond and to address the problem, and provide solutions so that people are going to have a good experience in your programs, and that you have healthy partnerships for your programs, right?
I completely agree. I mean, sometimes it just takes the courage of being able to say, I don't know, but let me get back to you. Let me find out and get back to you, right? Because it takes a lot of courage to admit that we don't know something, especially when we're supposed to be the one in charge, right?
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. Being a passenger in my own truck when my 15-year-old
Oh,
old drove me for
good
the first
grief.
time on the highway. Absolutely. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. And here we have from Erica. For me, I use courage anytime I have to speak publicly, especially in front of my colleagues.
Mm,
Yeah. And there's vulnerability there, right? And again, I think it's one of those things that's just, it's part of, I guess, human DNA or something, that we can be frightened to put ourselves out there in that way, even amongst people that we know. But it takes some courage. I use courage when setting and enforcing boundaries. Thank you,
yeah.
Ebony. Yeah,
Hmm.
that takes a lot of courage to draw your line and to say, here's the boundary.
Yeah. To be able to learn how to do that is huge. There are plenty of
But
adults that don't know how to do that, in any context, let alone in tough contexts like these programs, right?
it's true, and we have a unique opportunity in programs to instill these kind of things into students and to help them build those skill sets, so they don't necessarily experience them to the same degree that we might be ourselves if we haven't had that kind of training or support or growth. Ah, back to growth. Charlotte
Hmm.
says, I was extremely shy through college. After I graduated from college, I started taking ballet lessons, fell in love with it, and ended up in a regional dancing company in front of hundreds of people. That's amazing. What amazing growth that you experienced
There
because
we
you
go.
exercised some courage. That's so great. I love hearing all these stories. Thank you so much for chiming in. Um, we're going to move on to flexibility because we still have some other strategies to get through. And flexibility is going to aid our growth, by allowing us to adapt to those different situations as they come up to us. It's going to foster an environment where your staff can experiment with new methods or approaches, leading to continuous improvement. And as a leader, being flexible, it's part of your job. Being flexible yourself can help support staff in moments of need. So, how do we exercise flexibility? How do we practice it? Well, first of all, we have to listen. Listen to staff ideas and perspectives. Be an ear ready to listen to staff needs and their concerns. And then adapt. So be open to adjusting based on what you've heard, based on the situations or the needs as they present themselves. Feedback is going to be part of this as well, right? To implement systems for providing feedback, like we talked about in stewardship, the feedback sandwich, the feedback loop, using things like these can help implement, standard practices for providing feedback. But without feedback, we stay in that same rut. There's a lack of flexibility because we're not responding, and so feedback can really help promote our own flexibility and our staff's flexibility. And then we have innovation, right? So creating that culture where those new ideas are welcomed, experimentation is encouraged, diverse ideas are, people are comfortable sharing their unique thoughts. This provides opportunities for your staff to brainstorm, to experiment, and to implement new ideas. Structured initiatives such as innovation workshops or hackathons can allow staff to collaborate, back to that other strategy, and explore new concepts in a supportive environment. And it encourages staff to design and test new activities that they can then enhance your programs. Growth mindset, which is maybe one of the biggest pieces here and somehow also connected to everything else. We know that growth mindset is important for our students, but it is equally important for us, for our leaders, for our staff. Growth mindset is essential for that development of staff, as it's going to help reframe how we think about professional development and growth. It encourages staff to view challenges as opportunities rather than roadblocks or obstacles. They look at it as a way that they could grow. This positive attitude towards learning and perseverance can lead to enhancing skills, knowledge, and overall effectiveness in their roles, right? So, how do we support growth mindset? We're going to support it by helping staff set professional goals. And I know you guys are familiar with SMART goals. We've talked about them as in the context of servant leadership, but as part of 21st CCLC programs, SMART goals is how we approach goals, right? And so the goals that we have for our staff also need to be SMART. Regular performance reviews are an integral part of the goal setting process. And by doing these reviews, it allows you as leaders and the managers of your team to assess the staff progress towards those goals and provide constructive feedback and make any necessary adjustments. Performance reviews are really an opportunity to celebrate successes, to identify challenges and areas for growth, an opportunity to realign the goals to reflect the changing circumstances or growth of that individual and their priorities, right? This takes time. We have to be intentional and set aside time to make these things happen. We can also do mentoring and coaching, and that looks, those are things. They can be confused with one another, but they are different. Mentoring is when we can pair staff together to serve as mentor and mentee. This might look like a less experienced staff being paired with a seasoned staff member who can provide valuable guidance and support to that less experienced staff member. Mentors can share their extensive knowledge, their experience, their insights that go well beyond what we've learned in formal classes or training. How often do we have staff members who do not come from a professional educational background? They might be early in their careers and have little experience in education settings. Maybe we have hired college interns to help run programs and they don't necessarily have career experience. Pairing them with your older, more tenured, more senior, more seasoned staff who have those experiences can help build up those with less experience. It helps, excuse me, it helps offer those opportunities where those with less experience can ask the questions that they have on their mind. They can seek out advice. They can get recommendations for training so that they ultimately gain a deeper understanding of their roles and the organization and how to be effective in those roles. Mentors can then provide feedback on that person's performance, helping them to identify their strengths and areas for improvement. This can play a critical role in helping mentees navigate their own career paths, offering advice on career development, goal setting, professional growth. This guidance can be invaluable in helping less experienced staff avoid common pitfalls, develop their own confidence, and build a successful career. Then we have coaching. So, excuse me. Coaching is different because it focuses on specific skills and performance improvement that is typically targeted at specific competencies or behaviors that need enhancement. So, a coach, excuse me, a coach will work closely with an individual to identify specific goals and create a plan for then achieving those goals. This might involve developing a new skill, improving an existing one, or addressing performance issues that you may have observed. Coaching sessions are often very structured, very goal oriented, and the coach provides regular feedback to support and help individuals make progress. Effective coaching can lead to significant improvements in performance, job satisfaction, and overall professional growth. And then reflection. So reflection in itself, it can be a strategy to address growth, but this is specifically tied to growth to encourage regular reflection on the experiences as people are working through this and adjusting their growth mindset. So there's a toolkit that is on the NTAC website that I want to encourage you to go check out if you haven't already. It's our leadership toolkit, and there are a variety of tools in this toolkit. One of them is on the pillars of servant leadership, but there is another tool within that toolkit that is called Real Talk. And it is a tool that can help you have some of these kind of conversations around goal setting, growth mindset with your staff. So check it out. It's on the NTAC website. Speaking of reflection, so reflection for growth, we're just going to dig a little bit deeper into this as through reflection, we are gaining insights that can help guide program improvements. It is crucial for us to exercise reflection in order to grow. But by regularly engaging in reflection, we encourage staff and ourselves, when we reflect on our own experiences, to think critically about experiences, actions, and outcomes. So, what does this? Through facilitating deeper understanding, reflection allows us to explore those underlying reasons and motivations behind certain decisions and actions. It helps identify not just what happened, but why. Uncovering patterns and root causes that might not be immediately obvious. So it really helps us dig deeper into our experiences. Then we have encouraging that growth through personal and professional channels, right? Reflection is a powerful tool for personal development. By encouraging staff to reflect on their own performance and experiences, we foster a culture of self-improvement. So things like asking questions such as, what did I learn from this experience? And how can I apply this learning in the future? These kinds of questions help individuals internalize lessons and develop a proactive approach to their own growth. We, through reflection, foster a culture of continuous improvement then. When reflection becomes part of our regular practice, it instills a culture of continuous improvement across the program, across our organization. And it encourages everyone to adopt a mindset of learning and adaptability. See, they're all starting to weave together now, right? Excuse me. They also help us build stronger teams. So reflection can be used in team settings to enhance collaboration and mutual understanding. By reflecting together on team projects and the team is working together, members can gain insights into how they work together and identify areas then for improvement. Reflection is hard, but we're going to practice it now. And this is going to be a guided activity. So what I'll do is I'll be asking some reflective questions, and all you need is if you have a piece of paper, a little notepad and pen, just to keep track of your thoughts as I guide you through these questions. This is, again, an exercise that you can do and take back to your programs to use with your staff or even students. So here we go. You're going to just take note as I ask these questions. So, what are the current strengths of your program? What areas need improvement? How can we better support staff development? What did we learn from recent challenges or setbacks? how can we, how effectively are we meeting the needs of our participants? What innovative approaches can we integrate into our programs? How well do we collaborate as a team? What are our long term goals and how are we progressing towards them? So, if you were to ask these questions of your staff, I would recommend allowing some more time. We're going through the motions and doing a quick practice of this today. But after answering those questions, I want you to think about what it was like for you to answer them. How did it make you feel? What realizations did you make along the way? If you are interested in the questions that I asked today, I'm going to pop them in the chat for you. But these are a great set of questions to start to reflect on things that are happening in your program. So, anybody willing to share here about how you felt reflecting through that questioning exercise? One of the things that I think really makes a difference is time, right? We went through this kind of quickly. So, you might not have had the opportunity to go as deeply as you perhaps desired. But I see Miguel here shared something in the chat that I think is quite interesting. So he says that he heard on a podcast uh, of that featured successful entrepreneurs this quote. The quote is, "Yes, yes, I micromanage. I micromanage new staff and then I trust. I do not trust new staff and then micromanage." It's very interesting. And I appreciate, Miguel, that you shared that and are also reflecting on it. I think, excuse me, I think to a degree, you know, it's not, yes, it's micromanaging new staff, but like, isn't that also what they need as you welcome a new member to your team? Don't they need the support systems in place to help them learn how things operate within the context of your program, especially if it's like a less experienced staff, somebody coming through the door that does not have necessarily a robust educational setting background. So yeah, in a way, like that little bit of micromanaging for a new staff member is necessary. But for your seasoned staff member who's been there for several years and you can trust them, that's huge. You're not going to be micromanaging, and if you are, you need to do some self reflection and think about how you might manage differently for that kind of staff member.
Absolutely. Honestly, I sorry, I just wanted to chime in here because I
Yes,
think that like a really effective and robust onboarding plan can very much look like micromanaging, right? But that's all the framework and the scaffolding that somebody who especially isn't familiar with, doesn't have a background in whatever they're going into really needs. So sometimes yes, micromanaging has a bad connotation to it, right? But like when we talk about onboarding and making sure somebody is trained properly to do what they want to do and then feel confident to grow like we've been talking about, then it's necessary.
absolutely. And yeah, Miguel commented back here that just wondering if what he meant was that it's just that abundance of support and guidance for the new person. And I mean, I would hope so. Um, and it just is a very clear way to describe it for sure. We all know what micromanaging looks like. Um, So thank you so much for sharing that. So you have the questions in the chat. This webinar will be posted in the archives on our website as well if you want to go back and um, borrow any of these activities. But the way that you might, I want you to think about how you might take this back to your staff and how you might be able to use it as we move on through the rest of our content for today. And just think about in what ways, whether it's at a staff meeting or whether it's if it's one-on-one, or how you best could implement using questions like this to help support your staff growth. We are going to continue, though, to the eagerness to learn. So in many ways, this sounds and feels like growth mindset, but it's important that we specifically have an eagerness to learn, right? We want to motivate staff to seek out new knowledge and skills. We want them to be lifelong learners. You can support them in their efforts to stay updated on trends and research and best practices in the field by being proactive around professional development. When we do this, we cultivate a growing staff and improve outcomes for the youth in our program. So eagerness to learn can be supported in a couple different ways, right? I mentioned professional development, whether that's in the context of what you're offering in your program, or if it's something within a local network or a school district, or whole staff training, individual support, conferences, workshops, encouraging them to participate in those kinds of professional learning opportunities goes a long way. And then allocating the time for it, right? That there is time for staff to focus on their own learning and development activities. It also is important then that there are opportunities for staff to share. You might not have the ability to send everyone to everything. And so you might have to be strategic in who attends what professional development sessions, or it may even be that different staff have different needs, so they're attending different things. But finding that moment where staff can come together and share what they've learned from those experiences can be extremely valuable. And then we have personal development plans. So personal development plans, these can align with performance measures of all of those things. But ideally, each staff member should have a personal plan for their professional development that aligns back to the goals that have been set. Depending on your context, you may or may not be able to do performance reviews, but you can help develop a personal plan for your staff within the context of your program that's going to help support them in their growth. So here we have from Charlotte: trusting all staff creates a safe and understanding environment. We all learn at different rates, and just because someone is new doesn't mean they don't have a contribution to share. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Charlotte. And that's one of the things that is very special about servant leadership, is that when we are making decisions and we are leading our programs, that everybody's voice, no matter whose it is, how long they've been around, whether they're a student, a family member, a staff member, all the stakeholders, right? Every voice matters and is an important piece for you to listen to whenever making decisions, right? All right, so one more strategy for you. We've yet to talk about unity. Unity supports growth by fostering that sense of belonging and cohesion. When staff feel connected to their colleagues and aligned with the organization's mission, they are motivated and engaged. This collective effort enhances collaboration and reduces conflicts, and it creates a supportive environment conducive to growth for everyone. So we talked in several of our pillar sessions around values alignment. So taking the time to exercise and identify your personal values and align them with your organizational values. It helps staff understand and support the mission and the vision of the organization, just like it does for us as leaders. Keeping that open line of communication, right? Unity is only possible when we are open and we are honest. By promoting open and honest, transparent communication with your team, staff will feel comfortable and feel that they are able to share their opinions and perspectives. and will trust you in your leadership. Celebrate. Be sure to celebrate. Regularly recognize and celebrate both individual and team accomplishments. It helps boost morale and overall motivation. It can look like awards or public acknowledgement or simple gestures of appreciation. When staff feel their hard work is appreciated, they are more likely to remain engaged and committed to their roles. And inclusiveness. So, a positive work environment starts by providing a comfortable and inclusive space where every staff member feels valued and heard. So, that's things like implementing policies that promote diversity and inclusion. It's things like ensuring staff have equal opportunities for growth and advancement, or creating that welcome environment where respect is at the core, and we celebrate people and their diversities and their diverse backgrounds and their different perspectives, right? That is true inclusiveness. It ties back to that every voice matters, every person matters, every contribution, everything they have to contribute is of value. So, we are going to take a moment and think about these strategies, the continuum, the growth cycle, as we look back at Maria and the Sunshine Youth Program. And I'll hand things back over to Chaz, who will take a look at the case study with us for today. Chaz, I think you're yeah.
Yep, that's fair. Thank you very much. So let's check on in with Maria, who's decided that she wants to implement a staff peer mentoring program so that staff who have more experience can mentor and support newer, younger, less experienced staff. So we're going to help Maria put together a plan for mentoring and pair mentors with mentees, and we're just going to do that together. So let's take a look at the case study. I'll read over it really quickly. So the Sunshine Youth Program is a community-based organization that offers 21st CCLC after-school and summer programs for at-risk youth in a low-income neighborhood. The program focuses on academic enrichment, life skills development, and community engagement. Maria is the program director of SYP, and she was hired 2 years ago. Maria is a passionate, dedicated leader who believes in the power of education to transform lives. SYP has had many ups and downs over the past 2 years. So through several staffing challenges, Maria has finally created a team that's stabilized. She's concerned that without the right support in place, her new staff members won't feel successful or fulfilled. So Maria's recognized that some newer staff members lack advanced skills necessary for engaging students and supporting diverse learning needs. These skill gaps could significantly impact the program's overall effectiveness. Despite their dedication and hard work, the staff just needs further training and development to meet the increasingly complex demands of their roles. Addressing these skill gaps is essential for creating a more dynamic and effective program that can better serve the community's youth. Maria believes that investing in staff development can help boost morale, foster a more motivated and committed team, and ultimately improve the program's outcomes. She aims to build a resilient team capable of driving the organization's mission forward and adapting to the evolving needs of the community. She decides the first thing that she wants to implement is a staff peer mentoring program, so that staff who have more experience can mentor and support newer, younger, less experienced staff. So let's help Maria put together a plan for a mentoring program and then pair the mentors with mentees. So our first step here is to determine the mentor program goals. So based on what we know, what should be the goal of the mentoring program? Feel free to unmute and share. Feel free to share out in the chat box. And we want to make sure that we're keeping the program goals in mind, right? So we definitely want to make sure that we're boosting staff morale, for instance. That's definitely a goal, but it seems like our driving goal here might be to enhance staff skills. sort of improve the ability of staff members to either engage students or support diverse learning needs.
Erica, did I see you unmute?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I did. I was going to say what Chaz just said.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Didn't mean to steal your thunder.
And I think that the previous staff turnover in the program, I think to help set the goals, excuse me, one of the things that would be interesting to know is why are those who are still there? And to identify what those reasons are and how that could then help inform what goal needs to be set around ensuring that the new staff are retained, right? So maybe it's a piece of retention, which, I mean, if they are developed and they help hone the skills that they need to be successful, then that increases the chance of staff retention.
Absolutely. Got to build that confidence. All right, so let's look at the next step here. So we want to determine the criteria for the mentors. So what skills or knowledge should they possess, and what qualities would they demonstrate?
Well, I feel the mentor should definitely have skills with engaging students and supporting diverse needs. And they probably should have been with the program for some time.
I like that. Yeah, having a sort of determined amount of time. Okay, you've been here for this long, so you've seen all the like moving parts that go onto this program, right? So not only do they have expertise, but they also have experience in the specific program. I love that. Yeah.
I also think it's a little bit of like the combination of those things, right? Because you might have somebody who has an extensive education background, has been in programs before, but not your program before. And so if there happens to be somebody who's been there for 3 months, but they are highly experienced and are a very seasoned, veteran of 21st C programs, I wouldn't necessarily want to discount that person as a good mentor, especially if there's a willingness there for them to offer their knowledge. Because again, them only having been there for a shorter period of time, they might not want to take on a mentor role. And you also have to think a little bit about program dynamics, because maybe then some people might feel
some type of way. Yeah.
This new person, but you have to look back at those skills. Just like Erica was saying, somebody who has the skill set, right? They've been there for a while and they have the skill set. But it's a balancing act, I think, ultimately.
Absolutely. There's definitely a scale there where we're trying to figure out experience versus expertise. And hopefully we're balanced. But if not, I mean, we're never operating in a perfect world. So
I also think we have to assume that everything's hunky-dory now, that there's not staff drama that's going on or anything. The problems that Maria experienced, those have all been solved. We have to assume that. And that folks that are in that program and in SYP have those skills and would want to be mentors. But I think that's another piece there, though, like the desire to do so and the willingness to be a mentor is such a huge piece. Like, this also cannot be a forced situation. You have less experienced staff that need the support and the training and the mentorship, but you also have to have mentors that are willing to take on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Another thing just came to my mind. I think it'd be important for the mentor to be able to relay their knowledge to their peer, because sometimes we're really good at relaying knowledge to youth, but not necessarily peer to peer.
Absolutely. Those are different skills. They really are. Both in terms of pedagogy, like how you're actually doing it and the approach that you're taking, right? All right, so let's move on to determining the requirements for the mentoring program. So, what would be a good schedule for them to meet? How long do you think they might need to meet? How are we going to record or report that these things have been done? So frequency is difficult, right? Because every program is going to have different capacity for that kind of thing, right? But we want to make sure that people are meeting for, like an hour or so to be able to really get some effective collaboration going. Um, Ideally, you'd want them to meet something like once a week, or at least that's how I'm feeling. Does anybody else feel differently?
I feel like in traditional mentorship pairings that it's like if it's all within the context of the program and it's a new initiative that maybe once a week for an hour makes sense um, for the intentionality of the mentoring relationship.
Mhm.
However, your schedule might not allow it. And
Yep.
I wonder, we don't have schedule information necessarily for Maria. So I wonder if there is a time within regular programming hours where somebody, like maybe during dismissal, like other teachers, other staff are responsible for dismissal, and Monday is Sally and Susie's mentor day. Like, and they just do the check in and the 20 minutes while kids are getting dismissed, whatever it is, where it's a smaller time touch point, but it's happening within the context of their schedule and allowing for a balance of responsibilities so that programming can still run, but the mentorship is still being offered. I also see here that Charlotte said, plus some people might need to meet more often for less time. Yeah, absolutely. Like
Hmm.
you also, I wonder what the specific needs of each individual person might be and how that might then inform how often they need to check in. You might have somebody with less experience that's getting very overwhelmed and a smaller amount of time more frequently, like a daily check in for 15 minutes might be
Yeah.
really beneficial just to help them, feel like they're keeping things, under control and scare away that overwhelm.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna help a lot. I used to, when as a site coordinator, I used to just like go and touch base with people who are new and like make sure I just had like a 10-minute conversation with them, just daily, just to make sure that everything is okay. You still feeling okay? You seem a little overwhelmed. Do you need anything? How did this thing go? Just those little check-ins, just build confidence slowly, right? But that's what it's about. It's about building that confidence so that they have room to grow. So let's look at determining the mentor responsibilities. So this is questions like, what should the mentor be responsible for in the mentorship? And we also need to keep in mind that whatever responsibilities we're adding, are they're going to be added to whatever the current responsibilities are for this mentor. So we don't want to overload them, right?
Yeah, we definitely don't want to be adding unnecessarily to, which is
Mhm.
why there also needs to be that willingness, of course. Erica, did you have an idea?
I was just gonna say, they would have to be responsible for ensuring that they meet with their mentee, no matter what that frequency is, whatever that determined frequency, they have to ensure that they're meeting with the person that they're mentoring.
Yeah, accountability. It's going to be really
Absolutely.
important here on both sides.
And speaking of which, we want to talk about the mentee responsibilities, right? So, what are they responsible for? Do we want to have them keep a log of, their meetings with their mentors and what was discussed there? And then maybe they can present that to Maria, at determined points. Something like that could be really useful. And then we also want to give them clear and measurable goals for getting better, right?
Yeah, I think it's taking what they're learning in mentorship and applying it. Is
Hmm.
like that's their responsibility.
And then we want to also talk about how we're going to measure success of the pilot program, right? Because remember, this is her first time putting together these mentors and mentees. So, I mean, that could look like a staff survey would be great, like how effective do you think this has been? And you can give it to everybody, So that it's not even just the mentors and mentees, because people outside of this pilot program might see, oh, well, that new person has really flourished since it started. They might not notice, but so that's a good way to be able to sort of collect data on the effectiveness of the program. So now that we've helped Maria set up her pilot mentorship program, we are going to wish her the best, and we are going to transition back to our presentation here. So let's take a moment to talk about the power of yet. So yet's a very powerful word. And when it comes to growth, everything is about yet. We'll close today with a quick growth mindset activity that helps you reframe your can'ts into yets. So consider a skill that you want to work on and you might not have mastered. It could be absolutely anything, right? Maybe you can't get the recipe right. I know I never get it right. Maybe yet, though. I haven't got them right yet. Maybe you haven't been able to solve a puzzle, or it could be that you're learning carpentry. Maybe you get nervous speaking in front of people, like Erica was saying, right? So you can either share it in the chat box if you're feeling brave enough, or you can think to yourself about that thing that you're still working on, right? But either way, what you want to do is take that thought and add yet to the end. I'm not good at public speaking yet. I'm not great at carpentry yet. I haven't solved that puzzle yet. So take a moment and think about what shifts in your mindset just by adding that one small word, right? How did adding yet turn whatever was a challenge for you into an opportunity to grow? So we encourage you to continue using the power of yet for yourself and your staff and your students, quite frankly. When you incorporate that powerful word, you're working to cultivate a growth mindset wherever you are. Think about how else you could also use the power of yet with your staff or your youth. So as we come to the end of our presentation today, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us at info@21stcclcntech.org. You can stay informed about what's going on by signing up for our newsletter by scanning the QR code on your screen here. You can also follow us on X or LinkedIn to see what we're up to and what we're talking about. So we're also going to drop a feedback form in the chat. So please complete it for us and let us know how your experience was during this session today. It's part of our continuous growth and feedback loop.
I want to just plug a few things before we say goodbye for today. So I mentioned the leadership toolkit on the NTAC website, but we also have NTAC is going to be at the 21st CCLC Summer Symposium this year, which is in San Francisco. And if you haven't planned on going yet, I strongly encourage you to take a look and check it out. If you can get there, that'd be amazing. We'll be there. Chaz and I will be there at presenting at some sessions. But there will be a session on reflection at the summer symposium on how to use reflection for yourself and with your staff. Other sessions include things like learning recovery and engaging youth, particularly those who have disengaged from programs. Summer Symposium is a free conference, and like I said, San Francisco will be there presenting. But if you're interested in the reflection piece, like we talked today about how that can be a strategy to support growth, there is a session specifically on reflection by the NTAC team happening at Summer Symposium. And if you are free tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we have another webinar this week in our restorative practices series, where we will be talking about restorative circles. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, Chaz, for presenting with me today. And everybody in our conversations today have been really fantastic. Give us some feedback on that form, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Brittany, and thank you, everyone. Have a great day.